We have all been there when we think the only solution to fixing our putting is by getting a brand new expensive one. However, this video isn't about those £500 placebos, but more about those £100 forgotten greats. Because pairing one of these very underrated and forgotten putters with a sound technique and a slight boost of confidence, you won't only be saving money, but actually a lot of putts too. Guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. Simon here at Sanford Springs Golf Club, ready to test 5 very different but very affordable and very underrated putters. Now, big thank you to Y Golf who's sponsoring this video, and again I'll talk more about their fantastic putting training aid a bit later on. However, it got me thinking, what makes you a better putter? Because equipment definitely can make you better at putting, especially when it comes to something that suits your eye and especially your stroke. But then on the flip side, we can't ignore technique. Because it's such a simple, small stroke opposed to, let's say, a driver, it's very easy to think that we're all good putters, when in actual fact, you could be blaming the equipment all the time, chopping and changing. But in actual fact, you should be focusing a lot more on how you're hitting your putts, and I'll discuss that more through this video. So where better to start than my guilty pleasure and what I think is so heavily underrated in terms of value, and when this thing actually came out and why I don't think anyone wants to buy it. However, as I'll show you with prices on the right hand side in terms of second hand and actually brand new of this putter, again brand new is going for around £150, which I actually think is really good value. But the whole point is second hand. You're not going to lose any money if you buy this putter now and obviously practice it for the rest of the year. But this putter, the Cobra, the 3D printed one, goes down as my modern category. It's bold, it's brash. That's more like it. And for a putter that came out a couple of years ago that went for almost 3 times that amount of money, I think it's a great addition to this list, as it definitely doesn't look like a £100 putter. And because there's so many on the market, you can get so many of them in such great condition like the one that I have here. I think it's about time that we look at technique and especially equipment that can help improve our technique. When it comes to putting, the biggest advice I give anyone is having a repeatable setup position. And the only way you find out a repeatable setup position is sadly putting a lot of practice over and over again, to the point that you're not even thinking about it. Now, as much as it'd be nice to take one of those out on the golf course, Seymour is so underrated. And to be honest, even though my other 3 picks, especially my last one, is a great bargain and very underrated, I could just stop the whole video here, especially for you guys that are just starting the game and seriously want to improve your putting. Now, I'll show you some prices of Seymour putters down the right hand side, and the older ones go for just such good value. £60, £70, £80. You could go newer, you could go bigger. The main thing realistically, as you can see there, that red line. Now, if I push my hands forward, notice I'd be able to see that red line, or maybe I set it back. Maybe I open the face, maybe I close the face too much. The point is, when you're standing over a putter, and I'm trying to get this as close to my eye line as I possibly can, I know exactly that my hands are in the same position. And again, that is so crucial when trying to just find a natural rhythm with your putting, as well as having a structured practice routine, so you almost basically black out when you're over your putt and you just hear that slight sound of the ball going, oh, I thought it was going in then, in the hole, is the bit that makes you a good putter. Thinking about your putting doesn't help our putting. Not thinking about our putting and hitting a confident stroke definitely does. Feel that's something that you really neglect your setup, or just let's say a consistent stroke, or you move your wrist too much, I highly recommend just getting a cheap Seymour putter and grinding with it for the rest of the year. And as the rain's about to start coming down, it's probably a good time to talk about one of the drills that's going to help you the most in terms of improving your putting through the rest of the year. One of the most important aspects of putting, especially when you're beginning this game, is making sure that you're starting the ball on the line that you're intending. And don't get me wrong, you can all do this at your local golf course with just 4 T-pegs like I used to do for hours on an end when I was an assistant. And if you don't get this training aid, I still highly recommend you do just that, even if, oh, a bit more to the left, if it's 20 to 30 minutes a week. I promise you, you'll be so confident within 6 foot. Oh, if I'd hit it, that was about right. Of the flag. Oh, okay, tiny bit right, and that's about perfect. However, you can't do that T-drill inside, and considering I'm in the studio 24/7, this is quite a good godsend for practicing my putting stroke. Number two, as I showed you there, it comes with this rail system, so that gives you the perfect putt, so you can basically get a read on what the putt is actually doing, whether it's left to right, straight, right to left, etc. And as you can see, as I've dialed with the other putters today, the wider the putter, the more you have to bring in these gates. Therefore, close it if you've got a smaller head, or open it if you've got a bigger one. Not to mention the difficulty setting on the other end. These are a lot more rigid, and as I've shown you already, if you hit one of them, you're going to know about it. Not only that, the rail doubles as kind of a stimp meter as well, and as I'm expecting to see in a minute, yeah, the greens are quite slow, 8 on the stimp meter. And again, if you're looking to take your putting seriously, that's something that you should really consider, how fast your greens are running that week. Again, you guys know how I value technique over just raw equipment change, therefore it's a perfect sponsor for this video, and they've got a limited time offer on their website for the putting thing, which I highly recommend you check out if you want to get better at your putting this year, rather than just buying a brand new putter with a wing and a prayer. We've done modern, we've done technical. Now I want to talk about cheap. Cheap's a bad word. Affordable, because a lot of you get bored of me talking about this brand, especially when it comes to undervalued. And to be honest, since I started talking about them, let's say 3 years or so ago, actually they hold their prices quite well, but not in one department, which is great, because even though this putter does have quite a firm feel to it, which I must say isn't necessarily a bad thing, everything that you want from a putter, it looks great from above. It ticks all the boxes in terms of the models that you potentially might want in your putter. Better. And just like their wedges in the future, I feel Cleveland is going to go up in value, especially the second-hand market. But as I'll show you with the list on the right-hand side here, this Huntington Beach, again, obviously they've come out with quite a few models over the years, and ranging from £60, £50, all the way up to £90. This is such good value. And I appreciate it says soft on the bottom of this putter, but it's definitely the firmest out of the three. And as we go into the others, I'll explain the feel of those. But firm isn't a bad thing. Firm for me tells me what part of the face am I actually hitting? Is it directly out the middle? Have I hit a good roll on that putter? Have I hit it somewhat out the toe? Feedback is important in this game, and sometimes I do feel, especially with the big mallet heavy putters that are then very soft off the face as well, it's very difficult to tell if you've hit a good putt or not, which again can be good for some players that just want raw confidence. But as I said at the start of this video, technique is important, and typically a firmer face for me gives you better feedback. And if you really want to improve and know what a good stroke is or isn't, like that one, I would go firmer, and the fact that it's cheaper than, let's say, all the others, why it's on this list. The TaylorMade Hydro Blast TP collection, and again, this comes in other models, but for me, this ticks the blade model for me. It's classic looking. It's not quite like the Cobra. It's got that typical Answer style, Scotty Cameron style with that neck, and ultimately, if you're just looking for a change, you're a purist at heart, you want a bit of weight behind the ball, which this certainly gives you, and the Cobra was a bit flashy for your liking. And just like all the other putters in my list, you can't go wrong with this classic style. It's going to be around forever because it has been around forever. Don't get me wrong, there's some putters on the market that are coming in like your Zero Torque, but they might not be here in 25, 30, 40 years like this head style, this look, this finish has, because it's a tried and tested method. And for around £100, I think it's outrageous value. I have been waiting very patiently for this putter to come around the £100 mark, as it's almost a no-brainer. The feel, the sound, this particular head design, even though the whole range is very much a smash out the park. I mean, before I get into the other bonus, the hack that this putter actually does, what's this? I know some of you were sold just by watching that. However, there's another great bonus this putter does, as well as obviously the looks and feel from arguably the most famous putter brand to ever exist in our game. I'm of course talking about the Ping Sigma 2 range. I'll show you prices in a minute. However, I like this particular head style as it feels so balanced. I remember testing and trying this back in the day, and to be honest, I think I might be putting this back in my bag in the not too distant future. However, this right here, and you might not be able to see it, is the real reason that I love this. And it was such a good selling point for a pro shop. I remember being at Burford at the time, is that there's a little hex key in the middle of there, so you could just get a little Allen key, hex key from your local B&Q DIY shop. And sadly, I didn't bring one with me today, but this is currently set at 33.5 inches long. I could extend this putter by turning it a certain way, or take it down. I presume that's the shortest that it comes at 33.5. However, when we were in pro shops and you got loads of 34-inch putters in, I could sell it at 33 inches because I could just knock it down or put it back up to 35. The point is, with second-hand clubs, it's difficult to fit yourself or even know what length you like, what lie you like, how you want the head style to be. At least with the Ping Sigma 2 range, hence why I've been waiting so long for it, is that you could buy a bog standard one and play about with it. Do you want a longer shaft? Do you want a shorter shaft? Ultimately, even if you look on tour, there's so many weird and wonderful putters out there. And as long as it's legal to use in competition, to be honest, it can't be underrated or overrated, as that particular putter obviously works for that particular golfer. Guys, love to hear your thoughts on this one. Make sure to check out the link for the putting thing, as I think it's a great investment for your golf game, and I'll catch you in the next one.